How to learn English. Alice woke up early, her mind already buzzing with the familiar challenge. Learning English felt like scaling a formidable mountain every single day. She craved fluency, especially the crisp, melodious sounds of British English. Her textbooks lay open, a testament to her dedication, yet the words often blurred, creating a wall of incomprehension. This journey was truly hers. Her dream was simple: to converse effortlessly, to articulate her thoughts without hesitation. She envisioned herself in London, ordering tea with a perfect accent, understanding every nuance of a British comedy show. This vision fueled her relentless pursuit. It wasn't just about passing exams, it was about genuine communication and cultural immersion. The persistent question echoed in her mind: how to learn English effectively. There were countless methods, endless apps, and overwhelming advice online. She tried them all, sometimes feeling overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information. She needed a structured approach, a clear path through the linguistic labyrinth. Every morning began with vocabulary flashcards and grammar exercises. The initial enthusiasm often waned by midday, replaced by a dull ache of frustration. Her daily routine was packed, yet she squeezed in every possible moment for English study. It was a relentless grind, testing her patience and resolve constantly. Her specific goal was British English. She loved the distinct pronunciation, the subtle nuances of vocabulary like loo instead of restroom, and the charming idioms. This specialization made her learning more focused but also presented unique pronunciation challenges. Mastering the R sounds and T glottal stops felt daunting. One day, she stumbled upon a British vlogger discussing talking tips. It wasn't just about memorizing words, it was about truly engaging. The vlogger emphasized starting small, even talking to oneself in the mirror. This seemingly simple advice sparked a new approach in Alice's learning journey. The first tip resonated deeply: just open your mouth and speak. Alice was always hesitant, fearing mistakes. The vlogger insisted that perfection was the enemy of progress. She decided to embrace imperfection, understanding that every uttered word, however flawed, was a step forward. Mimicking native speakers became her new obsession. She would watch British TV shows, not just for entertainment, but to replicate accents and intonation patterns. She found herself repeating phrases aloud, trying to match the rhythm and melody of spoken British English exactly. Small talk, even with herself, was crucial. Alice began narrating her daily activities aloud in English. "I am making breakfast now," she'd say, "then I will read a book." This constant internal monologue slowly transformed into external, audible practice. Finding a language partner was a game-changer. She joined an online language exchange platform, connecting with a native British speaker named Tom. Their conversations, initially halting, gradually gained fluidity. Practicing with a real person provided invaluable feedback and encouragement. The sheer volume of English vocabulary was her biggest hurdle. Words seemed to multiply overnight, each with multiple meanings or subtle connotations. It felt like an endless ocean of new terms, making her daily struggle profoundly challenging and sometimes exhausting. Grammar rules often felt arbitrary and contradictory. Past perfect continuous tense, conditional clauses, phrasal verbs, they all conspired to confuse her. She spent hours diagramming sentences, trying to internalize structures that felt alien to her native language. The struggle was real. Pronunciation was another significant battle. The distinction between ship and sheep, beach and bitch, or the subtle difference in vowels constantly tripped her up. She often felt embarrassed by her mispronunciations, despite knowing they were part of the learning process. Understanding fast-paced native speech was incredibly difficult. When watching British dramas, she relied heavily on subtitles, yet even then, the rapid flow of conversation often left her bewildered. The struggle to keep up was constant and often frustrating. Perhaps the hardest struggle was confidence. She knew the words, she understood the grammar, but when it came to speaking, a wall of self-doubt often paralyzed her. The fear of making mistakes outweighed her desire to communicate freely. The vlogger constantly stressed, listen and practice. Alice understood that listening was not passive, it was active engagement. She began immersing herself in British podcasts, news channels, and audiobooks, even when she didn't grasp every single word. She started active listening exercises. This involved listening to a short segment, pausing, and trying to summarize what she heard. This technique forced her brain to process information more deeply, gradually improving her comprehension skills significantly over time. Shadowing became a crucial practice. She would listen to a short audio clip and try to repeat the words simultaneously, mimicking the speaker's intonation and speed. This felt awkward at first but vastly improved her pronunciation and rhythm perception. Consistency was key. Even on days when she felt exhausted or unmotivated, Alice committed to at least 15 minutes of English practice. Whether it was listening to a song, reviewing flashcards, or speaking a few sentences, she maintained the habit. She found that integrating listening with speaking was powerful. After listening to a news report, she would try to explain the main points aloud in English, as if talking to an imaginary friend. This reinforced both comprehension and articulation. Learning words in context became far more effective than rote memorization. Instead of just lists, Alice focused on sentences and short paragraphs where new words appeared naturally. This helped her grasp not only meaning but also appropriate usage. Her flashcards evolved. Instead of just a word and its translation, she included an example sentence in British English. This simple change transformed her vocabulary acquisition, making new words stick more effectively and naturally. She maintained a dedicated vocabulary notebook. Each new word had its definition, a synonym, an antonym, and crucially, a sentence Alice herself constructed. This active engagement with new words solidified her understanding and retention significantly. The most important aspect was using new words. Alice made a conscious effort to integrate recently learned vocabulary into her conversations or written exercises. She understood that active recall was the best way to move words from passive recognition to active production. She started learning words thematically. For instance, a week might be dedicated to travel vocabulary or food terms. This grouped related words together, making them easier to recall and apply in specific conversational contexts more effectively. Alice discovered why reading is so important. It provided immersion beyond just listening. Reading allowed her to encounter new words and grammatical structures repeatedly in a natural, engaging format, solidifying her understanding gradually. She started reading British novels and articles that genuinely interested her, not just textbooks. This made the process enjoyable, turning learning into a pleasure rather than a chore. Reading became a relaxing way to expand her linguistic horizons. Every new word encountered in reading was a potential new acquisition. She didn't stop for every unfamiliar term but noted down recurring ones. The context often provided clues, allowing her to infer meaning before looking it up. Reading helped her internalize complex grammar structures effortlessly. Seeing how native writers constructed sentences, used tenses, and deployed punctuation provided a clearer, more organic understanding than isolated grammar drills ever could. Reading exposed her to various writing styles, tones, and registers, from formal news articles to casual blog posts. This broad exposure enriched her comprehension and gave her a better feel for the nuances of British English expression. Consistent reading improved her reading speed and overall fluency. Her eyes no longer lingered on every word, she could process chunks of information, which in turn, positively impacted her listening comprehension speed as well. One evening, while listening to a British podcast, Alice understood almost everything. It wasn't perfect, but the main points, the jokes, the nuances, they all clicked. A wave of exhilaration washed over her, her hard work was paying off. Her first truly fluid conversation with Tom, her language partner, felt like a victory. They discussed current events, debated a British television series, and she even managed to use a few British idioms correctly. It was exhilarating and deeply satisfying. She stopped fearing mistakes. Tom was always encouraging, gently correcting her without judgment. Alice realized that errors were signposts on her path to improvement, not roadblocks. This shift in mindset was incredibly liberating and empowering. Learning British English wasn't just about the language, it was about embracing the culture. She watched documentaries about British history, learned about regional accents, and even tried baking scones. This cultural immersion deepened her connection to the language. Her daily rituals evolved. Instead of forcing herself, she now genuinely looked forward to her English time. Reading a chapter of a British novel before bed, listening to a BBC Radio 4 program during her commute, these were no longer chores. Her confidence soared. She found herself volunteering to speak English in situations where she would have previously shrunk away. Ordering coffee in English, asking for directions, even making polite small talk with tourists, it felt natural. The relentless power of consistency became undeniable. Small, daily efforts compounded over time, leading to remarkable progress. There were no shortcuts, just steady, persistent work. Alice understood that dedication was the true key. She learned to celebrate small victories, understanding a difficult phrase, articulating a complex thought, or even just correctly using quite in a sentence. These tiny triumphs fueled her motivation for continued learning. British idioms, initially baffling, slowly began to make sense. Phrases like, "spill the beans," or "raining cats and dogs," no longer seemed nonsensical. She even started recognizing their usage in everyday conversation. Phrasal verbs, a notorious stumbling block, gradually became less intimidating. Through repeated exposure in reading and listening, she began to grasp their often idiosyncratic meanings. Practice speaking them aloud also helped immensely. There was a pure joy of discovery in learning English. Every new word learned, every grammatical concept mastered, felt like unlocking a secret. The language opened up new worlds of literature, film, and human connection. Alice realized that true mastery went beyond mere fluency. It was about understanding nuance, humor, sarcasm, and cultural references. This deeper level of comprehension became her next ambitious goal. Sometimes, she found herself explaining English concepts to friends who were also learning. The act of teaching reinforced her own understanding and solidified her knowledge, making her own grasp of the language even stronger. The journey of learning English was, she realized, a continuous one. There would always be new words, new expressions, and new regional variations to discover. It was an exciting, lifelong adventure. She fully embraced the imperfection of her English. It was her unique voice, her journey. The slight accent, the occasional grammatical slip, they were part of her story, a testament to her courage and perseverance. English had opened up a vast new world. She could now confidently travel, consume international media, and connect with people from diverse backgrounds, all thanks to her dedication to mastering the language. Alice found herself becoming an advocate for British English. She passionately recommended specific British shows, podcasts, and books to fellow learners, sharing her love for its unique charm and elegance. Her daily day's struggle had transformed into daily strengths. Each challenge overcome built resilience, and every step forward deepened her appreciation for the language and her own capabilities. The initial fear of talking had completely dissipated. She now initiated conversations, participated in discussions, and even delivered short presentations in English. Her voice, once hesitant, was now clear and confident. Learning English had not just given her a skill, it had shaped a part of her identity. She was no longer just a learner, she was a communicator, a bridge builder, someone who embraced challenges and celebrated progress. Her linguistic journey had a ripple effect, inspiring others around her. Friends and family watched her progress, encouraged by her dedication, realizing that with consistent effort, anyone could achieve similar goals. She truly appreciated English as a global language, a tool for understanding different cultures and perspectives. It wasn't just about Britain anymore, it was about connecting with people worldwide. Beyond the words and grammar, she gained a deeper understanding of British culture, its humor, its politeness, its historical references. This cultural literacy enriched her entire learning experience. What began as a struggle had blossomed into a daily joy. Her English studies were no longer a burden but a source of continuous growth and personal satisfaction. She looked forward to each new linguistic discovery. Reading books, especially classic and contemporary British literature, became her favorite way to expand her vocabulary and absorb complex sentence structures effortlessly. It was truly transformative. The old adage, "practice makes perfect," was proven true, though Alice preferred, "practice makes progress." Every single practice session, no matter how small, contributed to her remarkable journey. She had found her British English voice. It wasn't about sounding exactly like a native speaker, but about being understood, expressing herself authentically, and connecting genuinely with others in British English. Alice knew she would never stop learning. English was a living language, constantly evolving. Her passion for it remained strong, a testament to the incredible journey from struggle to mastery.